How to Gain Muscle, 2222. This process of increasing your muscle mass is known as muscle hypertrophy, and it's a primary goal of resistance training. The muscle building process is driven by several factors, including hormones like testosterone and growth hormone, as well as the availability of amino acids and other nutrients. To build new muscle tissue, your primary tools for increasing your body's rate of protein synthesis are performing resistance training and getting sufficient amounts of protein and overall nutrients. The correct amount of resistance training drives your body's hormonal response toward building muscle. But it requires sufficient protein and energy availability to ensure the process results in muscle gains as opposed to muscle losses. While researchers and experts continue to study the science of optimizing muscle gains, performing resistance training using moderate to heavy loads, combined with relatively high protein intake, remains the only tried and true training method for increasing muscle mass. Tips for how to gain muscle. While many types of exercise offer health benefits, the only way to reliably drive muscle growth is by using your muscles against moderate to heavy resistance. In addition, muscle growth is specific to the muscles being used. 1. Decide your target number of repetitions. The repetition continuum is a useful concept when designing training programs for muscle building. Have some crossover, meaning that 3 repetition sets with the respective weight will cause some muscle growth, 8 repetition sets will build some strength, and 20 repetition sets will build muscle as well. Additionally, recent research suggests that different individuals may respond better to lower or higher repetition ranges when it comes to building muscle. 3. To put it simply, depending on who you are, your muscles may grow more with lower reps using heavy weights, or with high reps using lighter weights. 2. Choose the right amount of weight. In all cases, the weight must be heavy enough that performing much more than 20 reps is impossible. The weight you choose to use should leave you at or near failure on your specified number of repetitions. For example, if you are performing a set of 10 repetitions, by the 10th repetition, you should be unable or nearly unable to perform another repetition. You should rarely have more than 2 reps in the tank by the end of a set if your goal is building muscle. The overall implication of the repetition range continuum is that you should go through different phases of training using different repetition ranges to see what gives your body the most muscle growth. Choose your exercise as well. As mentioned, muscle building is specific to the muscle being worked. For example, to build bigger biceps, you need to perform exercises that work the biceps. This could be an isolated bicep exercise, such as a bicep curl, or a compound movement that uses the biceps, such as a pull-up. In terms of the best exercise type for muscle building, compound and isolation movements can be equally effective at causing muscle hypertrophy, for trusted source. Nevertheless, for the best long-term fitness results, you should include both compound and isolation movements in your training. Compound movements like a barbell back squat effectively stimulate multiple large muscle groups in a single exercise and provide more functional movement for real-life activities. This leads to both more efficient workouts and more practical muscle strength. Isolation movements are an excellent way to target specific muscles, and beginners may initially find them safer and easier to learn than compound movements. Additionally, isolation movements are typically easier to perform when you're fatigued, as you're not stabilizing your entire body. This may allow you a few extra targeted sets at the end of a workout when you're otherwise too exhausted to do another compound exercise. 4. Structure your workout to avoid overtraining. A good rule of thumb is to perform 3 sets of 3 to 5 compound movements, followed by 3 sets of 1 to 2 isolation movements per workout. Generally, you do your heaviest sets using compound movements and perform higher repetition ranges on your isolation movements, assuming you're performing 3 working sets per exercise. Limit your total combined compound and isolation movement exercises to 5 to 7 movements per workout. How to eat to gain muscle. Your diet is the second half of the muscle building equation. All the weight training in the world will not yield results if you don't supply your body the nutrients it needs to grow new muscle tissue. Bulking versus cutting. Most athletes, bodybuilders, and serious muscle growing enthusiasts follow some variation of a bulking and cutting cycle. Bulking periods refer to training phases during which you eat more food than you burn to support muscle growth. On the other hand, cutting refers to a period of restricting calories to reduce body fat, all while eating and training enough to avoid losing muscle. To gain muscle, you need to provide your body with appropriate amounts of calories and nutrients, particularly protein. Doing so will support the creation of new muscle proteins from the dietary protein you eat, which will be stimulated by the work you do in the weight room. The main goal of eating to gain muscle during a bulking phase is supplying your body with enough nutrients to grow, but not so many calories that you put on more fat than muscle. While some minor fat gains tend to occur during periods of bulking, a sweet spot, where your body builds muscle but does not store large quantities of fat, tends to occur when you eat 300 to 500 surplus calories. Your body has a maximum muscle building rate, and beyond that limit, excess calories will be stored as fat. If your goal is to have defined muscles, you want to avoid gaining too much body fat. Calories needed to gain muscle. For sustainable muscle gain without excess fat gain, you want to eat 300 to 500 calories per day above your baseline needs. Many factors affect your baseline calorie needs, also known as your total daily energy expenditure, or TD. These factors include your age, sex, current lean body mass, physical activity, occupation, and underlying medical conditions. Your best bet is to use an online calculator to estimate your calorie expenditure based on the data you input. Once you have this baseline expenditure, add 300 calories to establish your daily calorie goal. Protein needed to gain muscle. When it comes to nutrients for building muscle, protein is the top priority. Recent research suggests that those training to gain muscle should eat around 0.72 grams of protein per pound, 1.6 grams per kilogram, of body weight per day. When it comes to choosing what foods to eat, a registered dietitian can advise you specifically. Nevertheless, eating a variety of protein sources is probably your best bet. How fast can you gain muscle? While gaining muscle is surprisingly simple compared with many other life goals, that doesn't mean it's easy, and it certainly doesn't happen quickly. Gaining serious muscle takes many months and years of weight training and proper eating. Muscle gain rates vary by individual, even when following the same program. Overall, with good nutrition and consistent training, research has found that 0.5 to 2 pounds, 0.25 to 0.9 kilograms, of muscle growth per month is a good benchmark for maximal potential muscle growth. 7 Trusted source. While this may seem like a small amount, over time, the results can be dramatic. With just a few years of consistent training, you can gain 20 to 40 pounds, 9 to 18 kilograms, of muscle, which would be a dramatic physique change for virtually anyone beginning a resistance training program.